James Melendez. I have these wines from Vino Vasai. These are from Oregon and one from Washington. Stay tuned, and I'll tell you about one Chardonnay and two Pinot Noir next. Stay tuned. So always a treasure and pleasure to be tasting wines from Oregon and Washington. This is from Columbia Valley. I'm going to be doing first this Chardonnay and then of course progressing to the Pinot Noir. This is the Vino Vasai. This is from the producer Potter's Vineyard. Now this is Reserve Chardonnay, Columbia Valley 2020 vintage. 14.5% ABV. Back label for you to look at here. This is a 98 case production and a $38 price point. And because it's Rattlesnake Vineyard but vinified in Oregon, it has to be called a Columbia Valley wine. So it's a much lighter wine than I would have expected, but that's because that was by intention. On the back label here, I'm just going to read just a bit of the copy, and that is Vino Vasai, Italian for potter's wine, and it talks about this wine being in terms of stylization. Yeah, this is a wine that's harvested at a peak of ripeness and also followed by old world winemaking practices, winemaking style, including barrel fermentation, lees aging in French oak, and batonnage. The result is a classic Burgundian style Chardonnay. And so that is that vision for this wine here. So let's do the nose as well as the palate on this wine. So the nose is Granny Smith apple, dried pears, crushed seashells, as well as flowers. And next, the palate characterization. Now the wine's expressing a green apple, very minute hint of nutmeg, as well as minerals and flowers. This wine is 92 points out of 100 points. Now the front label on this wine, this is Potter's Vineyard, of course, Vino Vasai, Dario Estate, Oregon Chehalem Mountains, 2019 vintage. Back label for you to look at here. And a very extraordinary low ABV of 12.8%. This is a $35 price point. And so this is a 108 case production, so a very small case production. And with all these wines, I'd encourage you to think about, if you're not tasting a lot of Oregon Pinot Noir, why not just contact the producer and try to order these wines online from states that can receive wines from Oregon. And today that's more possible. Even just a half generation ago, that would have been much more of a challenge. Today it's much more possible to get these wines available to you. So the notation is boysenberry, which is basically red and black bramble. That's a combination of a berry that is raspberry and blackberry, notes of purple flowers, spice notes of especially clove and pepper. And so here we go with the characterization on the palate. Red bramble, white pepper notes, clove, thyme, mint, and red floral notes. This is 92 points out of 100 points. Next is the estate wine. So let me pour a little bit in my wine glass before I show you the label. Now this is a reserve, and here we go with this wine. Now this wine is going to be the reserve wine. And of course, I like the labels, by the way. I didn't mention that in the very beginning. Now here is the artwork on this wine, Vino Vasai, Potter's Vineyard. This is Oregon Pinot Noir, Chehalem Mountains, 2018 vintage reserve wine. Back label for you to look at here. So compare and contrast these wines. This is a higher ABV of 13.9%, 126 cases, and $58 price point. And so this is a different wine. It is also, Chehalem Mountains, of course, but it expresses differently on this wine. It's nice to taste a reserve, and I think this is a really fantastic wine where beautiful notes of black cherry, pepper, thyme, and lavender notation, a bit of autumnal forest notes as well. Next is the palate characterization. Very noticeable acidity on the front palate. Notes on this are red and black bramble, espresso, tarragon, pepper notation, as well as dried flowers. This wine is 93 points out of 100 points. More information on the producer down below. If you're seeking out wines from Oregon, you might want to start here because the price points are reasonable compared to other locations that are producing North American Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And of course, Chardonnay is, I would say, from the Pacific Northwest, you have much less of that. So you see a lot of Pinot Gris, but not a lot of Chardonnay from Oregon, Washington, but it's nice to see it. And it's nice to have, for me, I want to enjoy this with seafood. And these wines here I want to enjoy with a variety of dishes. Tomato-based dishes for me come to mind because that's probably what I'm having for dinner. Bolognese would go quite well with this wine. So thank you so much for watching. More information on the producer down below. Questions and comments you could list there. Please give a like, by the way. And also subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. I would appreciate that very much. So you'll find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and WordPress. So thank you for coming by the tasting table. I will see you very soon. Santé.